And a happy weekend to you, Central Georgia. Thanks for tuning in here for a look at your extended forecast. Kind of a 50-50 forecast that we do have throughout your weekend for any Valentine's Day plans that you do have. So we'll go over that, talk about what's going to be in store as we go into the next work week, and kind of talk about some event-specific forecasts, which it is an exciting time of the year if you are a college baseball fan like myself. So let's go ahead and talk about your surface map, and this is going to be as of your Friday morning, trying to paint the picture about what's going to occur as our systems move through over the course of this weekend. So when we refer to our system, it is actually going to be way back over here to the west. So you see these two centers of low pressure that have established themselves along this boundary. Remember this boundary from the last couple of days throughout the work week? It actually was a cold front that brought our showers over the course of Wednesday. Well, it kind of parked itself just down to the south of us, and the western component of this frontal boundary is starting to see some low pressure centers that were actually out in the Pacific Ocean. They merged together kind of over this Four Corners region of the country. There's another low pressure center over here in northern Texas, but that is not necessarily going to be of concern. It is going to be this one over here that kind of overtakes everything and is the driving force for a low pressure system that does move across this boundary and move across the southern United States. But right now, for your Friday, we have high pressure settled in, so that's going to be a big reason why we don't see anything in the way of cloud cover whatsoever. And along with that, nothing in the way of rain chances for your Friday afternoon and your Friday evening plans. So it is looking good to go. Keep those outdoor plans. It's going to be a very nice forecast throughout the afternoon. Going to start to get a tad bit chilly throughout the evening hours, so something you may want something in the form of a light jacket for before we finally transition into midnight and go into Valentine's Day itself. So here's a look at 7 a.m. as you walk out the door on early Saturday morning. We'll start to see some clouds beginning to move in from west to east, but we don't see any clouds over here to the east. So I imagine that we are going to have a pretty beautiful sunrise to welcome us out the door on Valentine's Day morning. Soak that up while it does last for those morning hours, because as we progress throughout the rest of the morning into the afternoon, right there around lunchtime, it is going to be more so a story of some partly cloudy to some mostly cloudy skies that you will have throughout most of the afternoon on Valentine's Day, especially while the sun is up during the afternoon. As we go into the late afternoon, early evening hours, it does look like we see some clearing. Anything that you see in the way of passing cloud cover, it's not looking to result in any rain chances through most of the day on Saturday. It's actually once we go into the evening and nighttime hours that we might have a very small rain chance, but it's not going to be anything that's worth canceling any outdoor plans for. So we make it all the way to 8 o'clock on Saturday, and it still looks predominantly dry. Passing clouds to provide you with some shade, but there's still some gaps where we do see some sunshine, and I imagine those gaps where we do see the peaks of sunshine will help contribute to a pretty good warm-up as we go into Saturday afternoon. Pretty similar to what we have seen as of Thursday, maybe not necessarily getting into the 70s, but still right there around average, maybe even a little bit above average. So outdoor picnics, outdoor lunches, maybe some early dinner plans, you're still looking good to go. I really think it's the late night hours as we go into Saturday that finally we start to introduce some rain chances into the forecast. And even at that, it's not going to be widespread whatsoever. We're talking about a few light showers to a few sprinkles. That'll be present in a select few spots, but very likely by 11 p.m. you're already winding down for the night. This is going to be if you really waited till the last minute to make some of those dinner reservations and could only get maybe around 9:30 at night. So of course you might be encountering a light shower or two that could be present, but overall I'm not putting too much stock into this. This looks like rain chances will start to pop up as early as the nighttime hours on Saturday, but overall I do think that the rain is really going to be kind of secluded to the morning hours on Sunday and going into the afternoon. So now we transition into Sunday where 5 a.m. I know this is really early, probably before many of you are waking up for any of your Sunday morning plans, even maybe about 2 or 3 hours before you are getting up and getting ready to head to church. It is going to be a gloomy start, and we're already seeing scattered light rain in the forecast, but the rain is a lot more widespread up there to the northwest into northern Alabama, even getting into the northern portion of the state of Georgia. Well, as we go a couple hours into the future, just past sunrise, that's when we start to see some of this cloud cover transition into some more widespread showers. And not only that, not just seeing those green colors this time, we are going to begin to see some yellows, some oranges, maybe even some flashes of red. So Then when you start to get those colors that are farther over to the right, it's going to indicate some heavier rainfall rates, and that's typically associated with some thunderstorms. If you can get into the red category, maybe kind of that maroon, that really dark red, and especially if you get into some of the pinks. We're just looking at the lightest shade of red, so this makes me confident that, yes, a couple rumbles of thunder will be possible in a select few spots, but this isn't really looking like anything in the way of severe weather per se, but the rain does look very widespread. So I would go ahead and plan on starting Sunday morning, continuing throughout the rest of the late morning and into the afternoon. It's going to be a messy atmosphere, not something that you necessarily want to be outside for. Seems like a lot of our weekend rain chances have been around this time frame, sometime around the commute out to church and any early morning plans on Sunday. Obviously, Mother Nature just continues to kind of send us weekly rain chances at this point, but we are going to be very thankful for what we do see in the form of some of these colors like the yellows and the oranges. Like I said, heavier rainfall rates, that's going to result in higher rainfall totals, and we desperately do need some of those. So as we progress a little bit farther into lunchtime, it looks like the main band of rain is actually going to be courtesy of a cold front that's draping down from the south of this low pressure center that's going to slide over the eastern part of the United States. That cold front's going to kind of create a little bit of organization, but that's also why after this main band of heaviest rain does move through, we start to see some steady clearing, and then we eventually even get some clearing in the cloud cover possibly. We definitely get some clearing in the rain as we head into the early afternoon time frame. But just because the rain is gone for this brief moment in time throughout, say, 2 to maybe 3, maybe even 4 o'clock on Sunday, doesn't mean that you couldn't still see your fair share of showers as you round out the weekend as a whole. This is 6 p.m. getting into dinner time on Sunday. Some wraparound moisture is going to send us a couple of spotty showers, maybe even some pockets of steady rain. And what I mean by that wraparound circulation is that low pressure center. That is going to dictate everything with our forecast this weekend. That's why I wanted to go mention it on our surface map. Low pressure centers are associated with counterclockwise rotation. So that's going to pass us just to the north. That cold front is going to trail a little bit ahead of that low pressure center, and you can actually kind of start to get a glimpse about where it is because these winds are going to start to curve a little bit up to the north. So our low pressure center, let's just call it right up here behind the banner where my hand is kind of pointed right now. It has counterclockwise rotation all around it. The cold front is leading out way ahead of it. It's actually starting to catch up to the warm front that is ahead of this low pressure system, way up to the north of us. But that wraparound moisture, courtesy of the counterclockwise rotation, that's what's going to send us a couple of spotty showers throughout the evening and the nighttime hours on Sunday before finally the system does move farther away from us and we are left with maybe a bit of a slight breeze as we roll overnight into early Monday morning. I do anticipate some pretty substantial clearing with your forecast as we get into Monday. We'll have a lot of good news when it does come to talking about that portion of your forecast into next week. So here's a look at your weekend outlook as a whole. 34 for a morning low on Friday. It was another very chilly morning that did follow up Thursday morning, which was quite chilly as well. I would plan on some temperatures somewhere in the mid to the upper 30s once again to welcome you out the door on Valentine's Day morning. On and off cloud cover throughout most of the day. You'll have some portions of the day that might be mostly sunny, maybe just partly cloudy, but overall I do anticipate a good coverage of some cloud cover throughout the day. And we are holding on to that 10% chance of rain, but it's mainly going to be secluded for just the nighttime hours, really closer to the midnight hour on Saturday. And then overnight into early morning on Sunday, that's when we start to see some of those scattered light showers begin to pop up in the picture. But the main rain chances look like they're arriving sometime as early as 8 a.m. and going into the afternoon, say around 12 to maybe 1 p.m., 2 p.m. at the very latest. Pretty good coverage of cloud cover, and along with some pretty substantial showers, we are going to look at a couple rumbles of thunder being present, but that's looking like a pretty low-end storm chance. That's just going to be associated with some heavier rainfall rates, and like I mentioned, that is going to be a good thing for your forecast. It will be a welcome trade-off to have, even though things might get a tad bit loud and a tad bit windy outside at some times. So 47 for a morning low on Sunday. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if that number creeped up because we are going to have some denser cloud cover built in overnight Saturday into Sunday morning. The denser cloud cover that you have, that means it's going to trap that surface heat from the day before a little bit better. So I wouldn't be surprised to see that 47 climb into the low 50s by the time we rolled into Sunday morning itself. 66 for a high temperature on Sunday afternoon. I did mention we'll actually have some occasional peaks of sunshine. They will be very brief throughout the day on Sunday, but I think your high temperature is somewhere a couple degrees above average in the mid 60s is mainly driven by the increase in moisture. That low pressure center is going to have a lot of moisture around the center of circulation, and when you get an increase in the dew point temperatures, that's going to be kind of a measure of how much humidity is in the forecast. That is also going to lead to a correlation with some warmer temperatures that are in the forecast for your Sunday afternoon. But let's go ahead and plan out your Valentine's Day specifically. We have some fun graphics for all the holidays here at 13 WMAZ. So 12 p.m. looking at temperatures somewhere in the upper 50s, starting to make the climb to the 60-degree mark. 4 p.m. I would expect some temperatures in the lower half of the 60s and getting ready to begin their cool down as you go into the evening and nighttime hours. Any dinner plans that you do have for February 14th, looking like temperatures will be a little bit chilly, somewhere in the low 50s, but overall those temperatures shouldn't drop much more than that, as you will have some cloud cover present overnight into Sunday morning. So that is going to maybe limit how much that we lower the temperature as you wake up and go out the door on Sunday morning. But now I want to turn it over to this, which is your day 3 storm outlook. Go ahead and get used to seeing this day 1, day 2, day 3 storm outlooks over the next couple of months. We will be talking about them quite frequently, as eventually we will transition into our severe weather season as we get into the end of February, kind of into early March. This day 3 storm outlook outlines the potential for maybe a strong or maybe even a severe thunderstorm or two. That's all we're looking at. Really 1 or 2 areas that could get impacted by a possible severe storm, but the chances are looking far greater over to the west and down in southwest Georgia. We just see the edge of this warning area, clipping areas like Taylor County, Macon County, Dooley County, Crisp, and getting down into Wilcox. If you remember the big kind of triple whammy system that we had a couple of weeks ago, where we had the potential ice implications we were talking about, then we had a tornado watch in the afternoon, and then we started to get into the potential for refreezing over and black ice in the morning the next day. Well, this is kind of correlating a lot along the lines of what we did see in terms of that tornado watch. It was only Crisp County that was included in it, but I kept emphasizing that areas down in southwest central Georgia, you guys have the greatest potential of seeing anything if we do see anything. So what I think is 1 or 2 severe thunderstorm warnings. That's going to be the upper end of what can happen. In all likelihood, the severe weather chances all week long have looked very low, and I still have very low confidence that something will play out in accordance to maybe a severe thunderstorm warning, maybe pack a punch with some gusty winds per se. Like I mentioned, I think most of what you'll see is going to kind of be your run-of-the-mill thunderstorms that you do see typically in the time frame of the year where it is a little bit warmer. You'll hear a couple rumbles of thunder. Things might get a little bit windy outside. But like I mentioned, it's looking to be almost an all-day washout for Sunday, so you're not going to want to be outside anyway. So we'll continue to keep you posted. If anything is to pop up in the form of a warning, we'll always make sure that we're here on the stream informing you, especially if your location does see one of those severe thunderstorm warnings. And another reminder, now that we're getting into severe weather season, know your county here in central Georgia. You're not going to see, say, any severe weather warnings for Milledgeville specifically, for Macon specifically. Know that if you live in Macon, you're looking out for warnings in Bibb County. If you live in Milledgeville, you're looking out for warnings in Baldwin County. Gray, you're looking out for warnings in Jones County. How about we go down to Dry Branch over here in Twiggs County? That's what you need to know. Remember what county you live in, because that is going to be important for knowing which kind of warning is going to be possible over your area, and it will become more and more important as we go over the course of the next couple of months. So here's a look at Future View's rainfall. I think our totals are going to be a little bit higher than this. Right now it shows widespread totals somewhere around about a ½ inch of rain, maybe even up to about 3/4 of an inch of rain. But if we are to receive maybe even a few supplemental showers as we go into Monday, that could also help with some of the rainfall totals. But I do believe that the bulk of the rain really going to come during Sunday. And I do believe that the totals maybe could get up to around an inch, maybe even an inch and a half. We have seen the range go down a little bit. We were thinking some isolated pockets of 2 inches of rain were going to be possible a couple days ago. Not necessarily the case anymore, but nonetheless, if we could get all areas in central Georgia on board with about an inch of rain, it would be some fairly substantial rainfall totals. So all in all those graphics I just showed you, let's go ahead and sum it up into one brief graphic of the 3 main points that you need to know. Rain will be present for most of the day on Sunday, really starting in the morning, going into the early afternoon. We might have a brief break during the late afternoon hours, but it looks like we are going to receive another round of some scattered showers as we go into the evening and the nighttime hours. Valentine's Day is still looking dry, so any outdoor plans that you have or just any plans in general, you're not going to need to bring the rain jacket for Valentine's Day. If you really want to be safe and sorry, if you have any plans to be out later on the night, maybe sometime around 11 p.m. to midnight, you might have the chance of coming across a sprinkle, so just bring the rain jacket if that pertains to you. But most of the afternoon and the evening on Valentine's Day, we're trending dry. You're just going to have a bit of a gloomy and gray atmosphere with plenty of cloud cover in the forecast. So our rain that is coming in on Sunday, mostly in the form of moderate and heavy showers, but we will have a few storms that are going to be possible, low-end thunderstorms. Severe weather chances still remain very low, and if you do see anything in the way of severe weather, I would put more confidence in areas down to the southwest seeing that. But again, the confidence is far greater in areas outside of central Georgia as opposed to in central Georgia. Rainfall totals ranging from 1 to 1.5 inches of rain. Like I just mentioned, I think Future View's undershooting the totals just a little bit. We'll keep our fingers crossed that we receive a little bit more rain in nature, maybe even some isolated totals near 2 inches. I'm not as confident in that, but overall this range, 1 to 2 inches, that is going to be a kind of sweet spot because number one, it is going to be some beneficial rain, but number two, that's kind of getting into around the maximum amount of rain that you can have and not necessarily have anything in the way of some flooding concerns per se, because if you're to get 3 or 4, maybe 5 inches of rain over a short period of time like we're talking about on Sunday, that can result in more risk of some flash flooding, especially with those areas that don't drain well or those low-lying areas that can be near some bodies of water. And this is why I say that we do need the rain. Our latest drought monitor update as of this past week didn't get any improvement. In fact, we saw some areas get worse. We saw this area of an extreme drought over in west central Georgia expand over into some of our central Georgia counties right here, Upson, Lamar, Monroe, getting into Crawford and Taylor counties. Most central Georgians are probably finding themselves in this orange shade, which means that they are still in some pretty substantial drought conditions, a severe drought to be specific, but you don't need the rain as much as areas over there in that red shade do. And then we do find a couple spots up here in that tan shade, kind of sandwiched in between 2 areas of a severe drought up to the north and one across most of central Georgia, including Macon, one of Robbins, Eastman, down to Dublin. Looks like Milledgeville, one of the most populous areas that isn't necessarily in the most severe drought conditions. But a moderate drought is still a step up from abnormally dry, which just means it's been quite a while since you've seen anything in the way of rain. Well, in fact, we have been no stranger to these conditions for a while. Up here in Bibb County specifically, which I imagine this does go for most of central Georgia, because once we all started to get in some form of abnormally dry or drought conditions, just about everyone has stayed the same course. So we have been under these conditions, at least up here in Bibb County, since September 16th. That has been about a 5-month span where we have had some drought conditions or just abnormally dry conditions. We had a record month of August in terms of rainfall last year. We were in fact around 6 to 7 inches above what we averagely see. And August on average is typically a pretty substantial month in the way of rainfall. So that put us well above the curve and way above average. But ever since then, it has been a pretty dry stretch of weather. And we've started off 2026 as a whole in a very dry stretch. But it is worth noting that January and February last year in 2025 both had some red boxes in January and February as well. So 3.67 inches below average. This data is taken as of February 12th. So going into this past Thursday, I imagine this number might get a little bit lower before our rainfall does arrive as we get into Sunday. And hopefully after Sunday, we can see this number maybe creep up into maybe around 2.5 inches below average. So some steady improvement would be quite nice. But right now, January and February have definitely had their fair share of a lack of hydration from Mother Nature. So in terms of the winds, that will also be one more factor throughout your weekend forecast. And I promise you, we'll get to some more good news as we go into the beginning of next week. Not really much in the way of a breeze throughout your Friday night plans. You might have a bit of a light one try to build in the later hours on Saturday, but it does look like Sunday morning. That's when we start to see some of those gusts up there to around 20 to 25 miles per hour build in. And then you can see some gustier winds well off over here to the west of us, especially in these red patches. Take a look at this right here. These winds spinning counterclockwise, That is going to indicate where that center of low pressure is that we are going to continue to keep an eye on over the course of this weekend. Even some shades of pink, which are going to indicate gusts up to maybe 40 miles per hour or even greater in some isolated pockets. Some of those could be present as we go into the early morning hours on Sunday. I would expect a pretty breezy environment. In fact, we're even talking about some gusts up to 35 or even close to 40 miles per hour in a couple isolated spots. But that's not going to be necessarily a long-standing wind gust. This is looking to pop up in a select few spots as that front is driving through, and we'll still keep some gusty winds in the forecast as we go into Sunday evening, but not near as gusty or possibly even damaging as what we could see throughout your Sunday morning. And then the breeze does very thankfully subside as we go into next Monday morning. But I did mention I'm quite a college baseball aficionado, and we have some big series all across the state of Georgia. Specifically one here in Macon. The Mercer Bears are squaring off against the Troy Trojans at Ortho Georgia Park. The Troy Trojans, they are one of the top teams projected to maybe even make the field of 64 at the end of the year. So this is going to be a big time series for a new and improved Mercer baseball school to kind of prove itself. So here you go, game one, Friday at 6 p.m. 57 degrees. That number will get chillier as the game goes on, so it's going to be a little bit chilly. You'll want some form of some light layering if you're heading out to Ortho Georgia Park on Friday. Then game two, going to be Saturday at 2 p.m. Like I mentioned, partly cloudy to mostly cloudy. You should have some warmer temperatures, though, somewhere in the lower half of the 60s throughout the afternoon. And game three, as of right now, is scheduled for Sunday at 1 p.m. I imagine that is very likely going to be delayed, as I did just show you the timing of that rain. But maybe we can get the rain out of here earlier rather than later, and hopefully we can get a dry spell to where we can get game three in against the Troy Trojans. But I would plan on some rain if that game does not get rescheduled on Sunday. So make sure that you pack the rain jacket, the umbrella if you are heading out to the ballpark. Temperature of 62 degrees, like I mentioned. Even despite the gloomy atmosphere, that surge up in moisture is going to lead to some warmer temperatures that are going to be right there around average for this time of year. Sunset going to be at 6:19 p.m. over the course of this weekend. So Friday, the game going to start right there around sunset. I imagine it's going to be full of beautiful skies as first pitch for the 2026 Mercer baseball season does kick off. Then we'll take it up 441. Let's go up to Foley Field in Athens, where the Georgia Bulldogs are squaring off against Wright State. Not to take away from Wright State, they are a dangerous team when it does come to the postseason. We saw it last year where they knocked off #1 overall seed Vanderbilt 2 times in the Nashville Regional. So this is not a team to take for granted. The Bulldogs are going to square off with game one on Friday afternoon, say around 3 p.m. Temperature of 55 degrees, nothing but sunshine. Great day for that first game of the series. But game three has been moved to a doubleheader on Saturday. So Saturday we'll start off with game two at 1 p.m. 45 minutes after game two does conclude. Game three will start roughly around maybe 4:30 or 5 in the afternoon. You should expect some mostly cloudy skies, but I still don't expect anything in the way of rain chances if you are watching the Bulldogs. And then how about the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets? This is probably the team with the most hype, not only here in Central Georgia because of Houston County Bear Drew Burress, but also they are preseason ranked #5 in the nation. Well, they are at home this week against Bowling Green. So up at Rush Chandler Stadium, they once again have followed a very similar schedule to the Georgia Bulldogs. Game three going to be squaring off after game two. So doubleheader on Saturday, but Friday is going to be the best weather of the bunch. I do expect just more clouds in the forecast throughout your Saturday, but temperatures are looking pretty uniform. In fact, I put 57 for each and every time. We're not going to see too much temperature fluctuation over the course of this weekend. Weekend grillcast. If you're planning on grilling out for your special someone, Friday and Saturday, green spatula is looking good to go. Go ahead and fire up that grill. But in terms of grilling out on Sunday to maybe end the weekend, not looking like the best day. I would definitely plan on ordering in, doing some door dashing of your favorite restaurant as we go into Sunday. Same thing goes for your pickleball forecast. Dreary and soggy for any pickleball plans on Sunday. I think you're looking good to go on Friday and Saturday. Just going to be chilly in the morning for your Saturday morning. So that is obviously something that you'll want to bundle up for a little bit more if you're planning on going out to the pickleball courts a little bit earlier. Now let's get into the good news. I did mention a few showers could hang around into Monday morning. I still have about a 10% chance of seeing some of those spotty light showers throughout mainly the first half of Monday, but after that, I expect some steady clearing. Then it's a story of mostly dry weather and just some passing cloud cover throughout your Tuesday, throughout your Wednesday, maybe a few spotty showers trying to mix their way in. And then as we go into Thursday and Friday next week, still not eyeing any substantial weather systems that are trying to make their way through here into central Georgia. So when we don't have a lot of weather systems that are beginning to move in, that is a sign that it is going to contribute to a warming trend as we go into next week. Take a look at your morning lows. 51 to start out Monday morning. We see the numbers drop a little bit, but still not getting to average of 39 degrees this time of year. A couple degrees above it, nestled somewhere in the mid to the upper 40s before those numbers once again return into the low 50s as we start out Thursday morning. And then afternoon high temperatures. Oh, this is going to be quite a treat for many of you spring lovers. 68 degrees for a high temperature on Monday. That's already feeling pretty incredible. Well, I'll raise you up to 70. And not only that, 74 degrees and then 77 degrees. We're pushing 80-degree high temperatures as we go into the end of next week, which I think does really correlate with our temperature outlook. This is just kind of reiterating the confidence that we do have a well above average chance of seeing some above normal numbers. In fact, we are 4 boxes over to the right of the probability of staying near average. So it looks like pretty good chance that the 20th through the 26th, as we round out the month of February, is going to continue with these above average numbers, maybe even some numbers that will continue to be scattered about the 70s. But as far as your precipitation outlook goes, doesn't look like we're going to receive an overabundance of rain. Right now we have a good chance of just remaining near normal levels of precipitation as we get into that window at the end of the month, which makes me think we'll have one rainmaker maybe come through and it'll send us our fair share of some totals, maybe closer to about 3/4 of an inch, maybe about an inch of rain, but nothing really substantial to help us out in the way of those drought conditions. However, I think everyone is searching for an extended stretch of some warmer temperatures, especially after everyone was all freaked out about the groundhogs predicting 6 more weeks of winter. Looking like they're dead wrong for the first maybe 2 to 3 weeks of this extended stretch they have predicted. We'll keep our fingers crossed that this takes us all the way into the official start of spring season, but don't let your guard down right now because winter is still going to go until March 20th until we officially cross over into spring. I wouldn't doubt it that we could have another big time cold snap and spell in store as we go into the beginning of March, but we'll keep you posted if we see signs for that. So looking ahead, Valentine's Day, of course, going to be this weekend on Saturday. I hope you have an amazing day with your special someone and celebrate them and make those plans Friday and Saturday, like I mentioned, because you do not want to be outside for any special surprises that you do have on Sunday. Then we go into Monday. Many of you may have a 3-day weekend. It might be a federal holiday for some of you government workers, or also a lot of kiddos are maybe having Monday off of school for President's Day. That's going to be in 3 days on Monday, as of the recording of this on Friday, of course. So 3-day weekend, Valentine's Day. Hopefully you have a lot of plans, maybe even taking it out of town, so you don't even need to worry about this forecast. Time change is going to be the next important thing to occur, and that is going to happen in 23 days, so just over 3 weeks away until we will be springing forward. And that's going to be where you lose an hour of sleep, but your sunset time, that's going to go back to around 7:30 p.m., around when the sun should appropriately set. So that's what you're doing. You're sacrificing an hour of sleep in order to get those later sunsets back, and then we'll continue to watch those get later and later, pretty close to 9 p.m. as the time rolls into the middle of June when we're talking about some summertime weather. And St. Patrick's Day, one of my personal favorite holidays, that will be in 32 days, so just over a month away from St. Patrick's Day. That is going to be, of course, on March 17th, but that is going to fall on a Tuesday this year. So any St. Patrick's plans that you're trying to make, might need to do them the weekend prior, which I believe is going to be the 12th through the 14th of March, or maybe you can celebrate them after, since it's kind of falling in the middle of the week. So I think you could celebrate St. Patrick's over the course of about a 10-day period, the weekend before, or you could get into the weekend after. So a lot to look forward to. And of course, as we get into the spring, that is going to mark our festival season here in Central Georgia. Cherry Blossom Festival, all of those fun local festivals that we do have each and every spring. Cannot wait to get out and visit some of those, especially Strawberry Festival, getting down to the Watermelon Festival, a whole lot to list, but obviously we will keep you updated about all of those and all the fun that is going to be in store as we head into a happier time of the year. I would say spring is definitely a whole lot of a happier time of year compared to winter, but we are very thankful for this premature warm spell, and we'll try to hold on to the fall spring for as long as we can. That's going to do it for your extended forecast. I hope you have a safe and a blessed weekend, and we'll see you back here on Monday at 11 a.m.